Greetings. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. Today we're going to talk about the topic that's on a lot of people's minds, and that is the idea presented by a certain film that goes by the name of Bird Box. I know what you want is a symbolic breakdown, movie interpretation, decoding, what have you. That's not what I'm going to do, because it's fairly simple. But to tie into that topic, I'd also like to speak about my experience with Jack Parsons and what is known as the Oath of the Abyss. We'll start with Jack. Jack Parsons was the greatest white occultist in modern times. You can research him yourself. Because of him, we have NASA, we have rocket science, we have, we have a lot of things. Research the Babylon workings. But anyways, during the Christmas holiday, the spirit of Jack Parsons began to communicate with me, began to come through very quickly, I might add, during one of my meditations. And of course, as usual, I asked what he wanted to talk about, and instead of, waiting until I fell asleep, he came through immediately, right? I was taken up into the spirit, and we had quite a discussion about his learnings from his magical workings, some of the results of his experiments out in the desert, and the big scheme of things. But the two things that I really want to share about him was, number one, the way he died, and number two, the Oath of the Abyss. Now, Jack Parsons was a rocket scientist, literally, self-taught. The man was a genius, right? Probably more so than Einstein. He taught himself, how to build rockets and all the things that goes along with rockets, right? So for years, for decades, this man is making bombs and explosives, not hurting himself because he truly understands the art and science of making explosives. But we are led to believe that in the 1950s, one day randomly, by himself, he had an accident, blew his face off and his right arm in an explosion. I find it kind of odd that a genius and an expert has an accident. That doesn't happen. Okay, years and years and years of practice, you know exactly what you're doing. You take him, you take Aleister Crowley, who ended his years addicted to heroin, lonely with no friends and no money, right? A brilliant man, a brilliant scientist who understands the spiritual realm, who understands so much that you can break it down and teach hundreds of thousands of people how to access spiritual power, how to access the mental realm, how to transcend the physical. You're telling me that these people accidentally died, right? Became drug addicts and just withered away, right? Or suffered a stroke, right? Or find themselves being murdered, right? Here's what you got to understand. These things are not accidents. These things were decisions, okay? These people who understood the nature of reality learned a valuable lesson, right? That the spirit is trapped in the body, and the physical world it's an illusion. It's damn near pointless. And the only way to truly transcend is to permanently break the bond between spirit and body, right? Earth is a school where you learn, well, you're supposed to learn how to use spirit and mind to create realities and dimensions and God knows what else, right? And once you learn how to do that, You hatch out of your egg, out of your cocoon, and you blossom forward and go do those things. Okay? Michael Jackson, right? Just look at all these people. I don't even have to name any more names. You get the point. You get what I'm trying to say. People who write records about them dying with album covers of them being crucified, knowing when they're going to go. And they go. There's a reason for this. Because these people are finished with their work and they're ready to go on to the next level. What is the oath of the abyss? It can be a terrifying experience for someone who's inexperienced. But you see, we've been talking about this oath all the time, the whole time. And it's the point. It's the second to last step, the oath of the abyss. Okay? Because the oath of the abyss takes place in Thoth, the sphere of Thoth, which is this final sphere separating us from the upper triad. But if you're going up the middle pillar, like many of us are, that's the final step before you reach Kether. That's the end of the game, at least for the physical world. The abyss, the blind spot, right? The firmament. Rocket ships, NASA, breaking the firmament. Blindfolded. The abyss is where you face yourself. The abyss is where you look into the blackness and realize that there is nothing there but you. Okay? The oath of the abyss essentially is it's a promise that you make. It's the next step. It's a ritual. It's a permanent ritual where you decide that every communication, everything that you see, everything that you hear, everything that you taste, touch, think, every sign, everything is a sign. Everything is a communication between you and the divine, right? There's not people, there's not friends and family, there's not birds and animals and dogs and songs on the radio. No, all of it becomes an apparatus for the divine to speak to you. All of it is a communication with the divine. And we've been training ourselves for this slowly but surely, right? We'll be having a thought and the song will come on the radio and it will echo what we were thinking, right? We'll have a question and we'll look up at a billboard sign as we're driving and it has the answer, right? How many times are you thinking about something and somebody comes up to you and has a conversation about that same thing? Or you're interested in a book and it just pops up on your Amazon recommended or YouTube or whatever. Those are the early signs. That's the starting point, okay? But the oath of the abyss is when you intentionally take the plunge, right? You make the oath that it's now just you and God, essentially. There's no other people. Like I've been saying all this time in my previous videos, there is no self, there is no individual personality. You can invoke spirits through other people, right? You can see other people as symbols. Like I said, you can see your boss as a symbol of the solar energy. You can see your lover as a symbol of the lunar energy or the Venus energy, right? It's all up to interpretation. And the more you know about correspondences and symbols, the easier this communication begins to flow. So as we learn and we study our practice in magic, we start to understand that we're forcing ourselves into the oath of the abyss already, because one way or another it's going to happen. How you're going to have to not get upset with somebody when they do something stupid, because that's not them. That's the universe talking through them, relaying a message to you. And I understand this may sound wacky to somebody who knows nothing about the occult. That's fine. That's fine. Because many of y'all are dead already anyways. No soul. But the few that do seek and study and resonate, they're going to get to this point at some point or another. The oath of the abyss is when you are alone, speaking to God. It's like reading from John Paul Sartre, however you say his name. He speaks about how there is everything and nothing, right? There's just those two principles. And our entire existence is seeking to fill that void of nothingness. And the entire existence of the nothingness is seeking to become us, right? It's that endless dance of 1 and 0, of positive and negative. It's a futile romance, I believe he put it. Right? It's like being in love with an imaginary friend who's very, very real, yet you can't touch them, you can't see them, you can't feel them, hear them, taste them, etc. This is why they say a lot of times people who are unprepared for the oath of the abyss go insane. They break because they get too grounded in the physical realm. And if they haven't cleared out their mental issues and their traumas of their childhood and their past, they misinterpret these signs. That's why we do chakra work. That's why we balance and ground ourselves and practice with spirits, etc., because we're learning how to remove our perceptions, our personal opinions, right? We're learning how to remove the 4 elements from our personality and be crystal clear about receiving. This is why it's important to do the work instead of just trying to skip ahead. You got to go through the work. You got to go through the cleansing process. You got to understand, before you heard about this occult stuff, you were a regular person. You were probably a Christian, right? You probably never studied the Bible. Now you're going into a whole new realm where you have to understand the basic principles. You don't have to be a genius like Jack Parsons. You just have to understand with wisdom how the system works. Okay? The subconscious mind is the abyss, and the subconscious mind has always been speaking to you through symbols. Okay? And when you intentionally adorn your home with specific symbols, the subconscious mind is now speaking to you, because every day as you repetitiously see these symbols, messages begin to be communicated through you and to you. But the thing is, you got to clear your chakras, you got to clear your past traumas, so that when you see these things, they're not flavored by your past opinions. Okay? Let's move forward. I'm going to connect this to the bird box. So essentially, when you get done with the oath of the abyss, you realize the last step to actually link up with the divine, the last step before you finally make communion, right? Copulation, insemination, you become one. The last step is you leaving your physical body. Right? You realize that the spiritual world is so much greater than the physical world, so much more beautiful than the physical world. When you understand that everything that exists in this physical is doomed and destined to deterioration, right? But the spirit is eternal. When you realize that, fully realize that, you are ready to leave this body. You're ready to leave this body in the quickness. Right? And to someone who has actually done the work, years and years and years of intense study of how to separate the spirit from the body, right? Don't you think when they reach that final point, they choose how they want to go and they go? Right? You see people as they get older with Alzheimer's and things like that, their body's present, but their spirit is gone. Right? You see people in comas and things like that, their body's present, but their spirit is elsewhere. Some people do this with drug use, right? I imagine that when Crowley got high, he really went somewhere else, right? And he just kept on living, his body being a shell, while his spirit was up there doing whatever the fuck he wanted to do. Do what thou wilt, right? I'm putting these pieces together. So essentially, of course, they got to make it a horror movie, because they got to make you afraid of it. But, you know, let's just say the oath of the abyss was forced upon everybody, right? And as soon as you saw that there is nothing but the divine, nothing but the eternal, you realize how worthless the physical body is and physical life is, and the things that you want in the world, the house, the car, the sex, the money. You realize how these things are so utterly pointless, Like, imagine intensely, suddenly realizing what people strive for all their spiritual journey. One can only imagine that they're ready to die on the spot. Of course, it's sensationalized, right? Because it's a horror movie. You got knives stabbing and heads bursting in glass and people sitting down in flaming cars. That's a little extreme, I'm sure, but these people see the light and they're ready to go to the next level, right? It's like the rapture. It's like the upgrade. Then you got the apostles, the priests, right? The ones who come to spread the message, right? Talking about how beautiful it is and how everyone should see it. And I'm sorry you didn't get to see it, right? They're sharing the message. I mean, the lady that survived, look at how much hell she had to go through just to stay in the physical world. Are you kidding me? Is it that serious that you're going to have to live the rest of your days on the top of some mountain with a bunch of blind people, right? Was it worth it? Was it worth it? The children are going to grow up and you're going to tell them about the horrible thing that happened. And who's to say that, it won't catch up to them up there on that mountain, right? Again, just biding time, just trying to survive, just doing anything it takes to survive. You'll hear Panic talk about how unimportant it is to worry about this physical world. The Egyptians didn't write on their walls how we need a new economic plan, how we need a food plan, how we need to reclaim our greatness and build the pyramids again. No. All those hieroglyphs written in those tombs were about how to escape the physical world, how to die properly, right? How to get off this rock. That's what those hieroglyphs are about. Not how to be a better human, how to free your soul from the prison. I think I said this part before about the prison. Prism, Prism, right? You see the Pink Floyd album cover where it's got the triangular prism. And when the white light hits that prism, it becomes fractured into 7 colors, right? Your 7 chakras. Your body is a prism. You are crystallized. Your light is trapped here and fragmented. The whole point is to focus. Look up the word focus, right? I believe light in Spanish is actually focus. But anyways, that's recombining the 7 lights, right? Recombining them into one powerful beam. The only way you can get that is if you break that prism. Or if you shine it through another prism upside down. 69, I suppose. I don't know. But look at what the Gnostics have been telling us all along. Earth is a prison. The body is a prison. The whole point is to liberate. Free your mind. Learn how to escape. That's what this occult science is all about. Learning how to escape. Not how to be a better human, to get a good economic plan, but to get out of this. To get out of it. These are some of the things that were communicated to me in my conversation with Jack Parsons. These are some of the revelations that I've came up with after watching that so popular movie Bird Box. A bird trapped in a box, right? Wouldn't you want to be set free? But yeah, don't mean to get too creepy on you. Join the Magus Society on Facebook, the Magus Society, Magus. This is where we come together and discuss ideas. Many people, not just myself, but there's so many brilliant people on this site, so many brilliant people in this group that are answering questions, posting ideas. We got so many books in here, it's ridiculous. This group has everything that you will need to begin your journey or to develop your journey. If you don't believe me, join it for yourself. See what everyone else is saying. Ask your own questions. Participate. You don't have to take my word for it because I'm not trying to prove nothing to anybody. We in here doing the work. And it's about to get a little bit more intense. A lot bit more intense. But yes, This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777, and I wish you peace.